All right, welcome everybody and good afternoon. Welcome to our Breaking Barrier event as part of the NIM Ontario, the NIM month. And before we begin, I would like to start by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territories of the Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, whose presence here continues on to this day. We would also like to acknowledge the land we are on is the meeting place of two treaties, the land of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We would like to thank them and other Indigenous people for sharing this land with us. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and play in this territory. So I'm Joy Chianu, and I am an engineering technical lead at Jana Corporation. I graduated with a bachelor's of engineering in chemical engineering from McGill University in 2018. And I'm also a member of OSPE's advocacy committee in the diversity and inclusion task force, where I encourage young people to pursue a career in STEM among our other mandates. And today here with me, I have Angela Voitila. Angela is an enterprise channel manager at Microsoft and responsible for leading partner strategy in a portfolio of customer accounts. She formerly was a director of consulting at CGI Groups Incorporated and a business manager in the office of the CEO, sales director, and business development manager at Redmi Solutions Incorporated. She also worked at Hydro One and Manitoba Hydro in a variety of roles, including field protection and control engineer and regulatory affairs advisor. In 2018, Angela was elected to the board of directors of the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. She chairs OSPE's Diversity and Inclusion Task Force and also co-chairs the Women at Microsoft Toronto chapter. Angela has a long-standing interest in advocacy and diversity, including co-founding the Information Technology Association of Canada's Women on Boards Diversity Committee, being a board member of the Young Professionals in Energy Toronto chapter, and organizing the CGI Diversity and Inclusion STEM Camp. She also founded Hydro One's first D&I initiative called Women in Trades, Technology and Engineering Group. Angela holds a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering from the University of Manitoba and an MBA Essential Certificate from Rotman School of Management. She's also a project management professional and is a licensed professional engineer. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you. Oh my goodness, sorry for the long introduction.
All right, we'll have some time for Q&A towards the end of this session. So we ask that you put all your questions in the chat box and we'll address them as they come. So let's jump right into it. So we would like to start off this session by having a poll and want to know what's your perception of engineering. Is it nerdy, cool, more exciting than hockey, useful for serious problem solving, or all of the above? All right, I see lots of all of the above. Okay. Just wait for a couple more answers to come in, but it looks like most people believe it's serious problem solving, all of the above. All right. So I think for me, when I first saw this question, the joy of now would say all of the above, just because I don't really know much about hockey. And like, yeah, it's like engineering comes, you're nerdy, you're cool, and also you get to solve lots of problems. But I think when I was much younger, just from watching The Big Bang Theory, it just came up as engineers are nerdy, as portrayed by one of the characters. And yeah, I would ask, from here, I'd just like to ask Angela, like, what inspired you to become an engineer?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I truly owe it to my grade 10 electronics teacher. So growing up, I actually helped my dad maintain a lot of his rental properties. And when I was in high school, I decided to fill a spare with a course that could potentially teach the theory behind the work that I was doing. So for me, I naturally excelled in the class, and thankfully my teacher educated me about engineering, and that's what helped me decide on engineering in university. How about you, Joy? How did you get into engineering?
Mine is very, very different. So initially, I had the grand plan of becoming a medical doctor, and it took shadowing some doctors at an ICU ward to realize that blood was not for me. So I had to, pivot and find something else. And during that period, I was following this YouTuber, a female YouTuber, and she was talking about her career path, and she mentioned chemical engineering, and I was like, that's different, that's new. And I looked into it, and it kind of intersected with my interests in science and math, and I figured, okay, this is the right path for me. And yeah, that's how I went down that lane. If I hadn't discovered her, I wouldn't have known about chemical engineering, honestly. And yeah, I would like to know, Angela, upon graduating, how has your career progressed?
Yeah, so I've actually had quite the whirlwind of experiences, I think, across my last, I would say, 10 plus years of my career. I initially started in the utility sector. So that was working for Manitoba Hydro and Hydro One in various technical roles, but then eventually I transitioned into more business roles. And I think the one role that stood out the most to me within those experiences was being a field and protection control engineer in the field. And it really gave me that firsthand experience, and then also showed me the importance of safety especially when working hands-on with a lot of the equipment. I eventually ended up leaving the utility sector and went into the telecom industry working for a software company. And that company took me around the globe. I was actually out of the country 75% of the year, which was crazy, but very enjoyable. I was able to experience various workplace dynamics, business etiquette, and culture. And then after that, I actually ended up working for an IT consulting firm. So initially I started within their utilities practice, but eventually transitioned into financial services. And the last 2 years at that consulting firm, I was actually working for CIBC in their capital markets, treasury, and risk management portfolio, or technology management portfolio, which was very eye-opening, especially working for a big bank. I think for me, my yearning for just new challenges and learning gave me that opportunity to take risks and try all these different industries. And now I'm actually at Microsoft, just promoting their Azure cloud and other solutions to our customers.
It's really amazing to see how you've kind of like navigated your career so far, from utility to telecommunications, business. Like, there's a lot that's happened with just that one degree, right? It shows how flexible engineering is. And I think for me right now, I just started off my career, so I'm working for more or less a gas utility, like a utility company, more or less. It's interesting to see how, like, there's opportunity for me to move around, or just for engineers really to navigate around with just the engineering degree as the baseline. And I would like to know, like, what's one thing you wish you knew as an engineering student?
I think for me now, when I look back, I really wish I knew the flexibility of the engineering degree. Especially for me, I put so much pressure on myself to make that right decision after graduation. And I was under this impression that once I landed my first job, I would stay with that organization until retirement. So for me, I really encourage everyone to consider engineering. It's been an amazing degree for me. And I think as you progress in your even like student life, to try to just gain more experiences through like do-it-yourself projects, or even when I was in university, I actually joined the formula team and helped build a formula race car, which we raced against other universities, which was an amazing experience in itself.
Oh, wow. So I think for me, I think you already stressed on the flexibility part of things, and obviously engineering has lots of challenge that comes with going to engineering, but it's the fun things, right? You're able to solve problems with your degree. I think one thing I think I wished I knew as a student was to, tap into the resources available to me as a student, or available in the campus setting, just like networking with your professors. And again, as Angela mentioned, partaking in clubs and design teams to really put into practice what you're learning in the classroom. And I think I would say for sure, like, make sure while you're a student at the moment, like try to maximize the use of those resources, because it's not as easy to get those opportunities once you leave and you start focusing on your work, in the industry. So moving from there, I'd like to know, what's the thing you love most about your career?
I would say my favorite part is I truly love what I do and that it doesn't actually seem like a job anymore. I think every day is filled with tons of learning and problem solving. And for me, just even having the exposure to work with different teams and technology areas has been very rewarding. I think, but rest assured, it didn't always start that way. I think for me, I really just learned what I truly love, and I've been able to pivot throughout my career to really identify just the things that I truly enjoy, but then also the things that just don't work with me.
All right. Yeah, thank you for like highlighting that. I think for me, I think what I love most so far is, like, as I mentioned, the challenge. So every week is a new challenge you're faced with, and just for the fact that you studied engineering, it gives you that grounding, that foundational knowledge of how to go about tackling problems, and I quite enjoy that. And just knowing that we're solving problems in the world and improving the lives of people really keeps me going, is what I love most about my career thus far. In contrast, I'd love to know, like, what are some hurdles or challenges you faced or had to overcome over the years?
I think for me, it's really just ensuring that my voice is heard in every setting that I'm in. And I think it's sometimes, especially being a female engineer and working male-dominated fields, sometimes you're the only female or just in a smaller group of females within the workplace. So really ensuring that I do speak up when I think that my opinion should be shared with the group. And I think one thing that I keep like reiterating even to myself is that my voice is valuable and it is important that it be heard. And I think that's one thing that, as I've evolved in my career, that's been one thing that stood out the most, and the importance of it. And I think it's just, even for me, earlier stages, even if you don't know everything, even just ask those questions just to get that clarity.
I think for me, I can definitely relate to what you're saying, as I mentioned. And one thing for me at the beginning was the imposter syndrome, right? So I just graduated, and I'm like surrounded by like experienced engineers, mainly male, and having to like question if I'm in the right location, if I belong there, if my opinions matter, was challenging to me, you know. And it took like kind of almost consciously working on it and saying, okay, if I'm here, if I deserve to be here. I'm qualified to be here. They did not pick me because by fluke, you know. So just constantly reminding myself that my opinions do matter. My opinions do matter, just like you did. Had kind of like helped me so far to overcome that challenge.
I think one thing that I'd like to add is that imposter syndrome doesn't go away. I think even throughout the years, you always have that self-doubt whenever you join any team. But I think for me, I actually now have evolved to actually use it as an indicator to let myself know that I'm actually challenging myself and I'm getting out of that comfort zone. So I almost use it as a benefit now.
Oh, I like that, turning that fear into like a strength or a power to push you forward. So what would you say to a young person right now thinking about going down the engineering field or trying to pursue engineering as a career?
I would say for sure, be persistent and just don't give up. I think with engineering, it is all about problem solving, and you will not have all the answers, but you'll be able to work with teams to find the solutions. And I think one thing is that we're scared of failure, but we do need to fail to really utilize that experience as a learning and growth opportunity as well. And that's how you also learn and evolve.
All right. Yeah, I think I like what you said about basically not being afraid to fail, because failure is part of the process, right? And I would also like to get your take on like what your advice is for students who are currently pursuing careers in STEM.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have three pieces of advice. I would say number one is get involved. So join networks that will truly empower and support you. So for example, for me, I joined the Ontario Society of Professional Engineers. I've been a volunteer for a while now, but for me, it's really a great network to just help me build my confidence as I continue to pursue the different avenues within my own career. Number two is really mentors are so critical. And I think when you look at internally or externally, a mentor is very important because even though typically we look at mentors within the organization, I think it is great to see a different perspective when it is outside of your organization, and that is even within university, right? So I think these mentors will help you navigate difficult decisions and interactions in the workplace. And like I said, they are a great support system, just like the networks. I think for me, one thing that I've noticed too, as my mentorship relationships have grown, they learn about your capabilities and they're able to vouch for your accomplishments. And then they actually end up being a sponsor or a champion for you whenever there is a promotion in the workplace. And my third piece of advice would be culture fit is key to enable your success. And I think from my own personal experience, I've realized that my direct manager plays such a critical role in my personal success. And even through like the people that I've mentored over the years, they have mentioned to me that they are in toxic environments and they stay because they hope that things will change. But I think for me, one thing that I've realized is that they rarely do change. And I think that's when you realize, like, I think you need to set that timeline. And if things aren't changing for the better, really just reposition yourself within the organization or even consider looking at an external company.
Those are three very sage words you've shared with us, get involved. I remember last year when I was trying to look for things I can do that align with my interests, I found OSPE and I got to talk to Angela about what her team and how we're doing with the diversity and inclusion task force. And like that kind of like was aligned with what I was passionate about and what I wanted to push for or advocate for. And there are lots of similar organizations like OSPE that you can get involved with to make sure that you're doing things, outside of your work to push yourself professionally and personally. And you mentioned the importance of mentors and mentors and sponsors. And I mean, I can't stress enough, in as much as I'm still trying to figure that out on my side, but it's nice to hear it reiterated over and over again, the importance of, getting the right person to vouch for you and direct you so you don't make the same mistakes that they have made. It's very important to keep that in mind. And last but not least, culture fit. And honestly, I'm thankful that so far in my career, very short career, I've had really great managers and supervisors who have really helped me and also the environment of the workplace has always been very, very conducive so far. But I've also had very, very, alarming viewpoints or experiences from friends and colleagues as well from past positions. And it's one thing if the work is challenging, right? So a whole new thing if the place you're working in is just causing mental health issues for you. So make sure you prioritize your mental health when it comes to getting that right culture fit. So in as much as you're getting interviewed, for example, for a job, also interview the company to make sure that there's that fit before you get into it and you just can't bear the backlash more or less.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd like to add is it is critical before you join any organization or even a position to really leverage the people that are working there. Like you can go on LinkedIn, like start a message and ask them truly like how their experiences are, because you'll learn so much from even just speaking to people. And typically they are pretty transparent, especially when you are an external party considering going into that organization.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. And I'll like to address like one more thing. So, I mean, I'm sure you already know this. It comes as no surprise that there are not as many female engineers in the field right now. As a matter of fact, Angela, I think you and I are perhaps considered unicorns in this sector. So before we go ahead with my question, I would like to poll the audience to know if you personally know a female engineer. So do you know someone who is a female engineer in your family, perhaps a colleague or a friend, or you don't know anyone personally? Right. Oh, as in seeing lots of people saying they know friends, and some say they know some family members. I'll just wait for a few more to come in and I'll share the poll results. All right.
Yeah, it's interesting because I find the people I went to school with, a lot of the reasons why they went into engineering was because they had a family member that already like basically convinced them to pursue engineering. And it's even for me, I have a little sister and a little brother, and for me, I've always kind of pushed them and insisted that they go into engineering. So I think it helps, but for me, I think anybody that answered yes, that they knew somebody, I would recommend that they really spend time with these female engineers and just really learn from their experiences, their perspectives, and find out why engineering is such an amazing degree to pursue. And I think for anybody that answered no, if you don't know a female engineer, if you don't know an engineer at all, I think I would love to help out. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn and have some questions about the degree,
yeah, definitely.
Contact me.
Awesome. So you can see that most people know a family, a friend, or a friend or colleague that's an engineer, a female engineer, and not that many that don't know female engineers. Perhaps you're counting us as well as people you know, which is great. So I mean, I would like to now ask. I'd like to know, what are your thoughts right now on the number of female engineers we have out there, or the percentage we have out there, and how can we go about increasing the number of young women who pursue a career in engineering?
Yeah, so actually OSPE's most recent analysis indicates that women make up about 48% of Canada's overall workforce, but only 13% of practicing engineers are actually female engineers. I think for me, the major problem is that engineering is not a popular option for students to consider. And I think it's quite unfortunate as there are so many opportunities for growth. And I think in order to narrow the gap, we really need to spend time in educating women on the options and the vast benefits of engineering at a younger age. Also, I think in the workplace, we need more allies. And this is to help really empower youth as they start their careers in engineering. Another option is obviously leveraging organizations like OSPE. OSPE does offer a mentorship program, and I would recommend anybody that's interested to check out the website and look at just the other programs they have available as well for networking opportunities. I think anybody that's here from industry, I really encourage you to just pay it forward and be that champion or ally you wish you had earlier in your career. I think it's critical in empowering the next generation of our youth to make those informed decisions. I think also when you're looking to hire, make sure that you have a diverse pool of candidates. And I think not only just looking obviously at gender and diverse and race and all that, but I think even just like looking, not just going to the universities that are the most popular, like the Stanfords and Yales of the world. I think it's also just like diversifying where you look for candidates in general.
Yeah, I really couldn't have put it better myself, Angela. I think you stressed the main point. The reality is that representation does matter in the industry. So the more women or young girls see people like them in positions, in engineering positions or places of power, the more they have the aspiration to look forward to doing that. You can't aspire to become something you're not really familiar with. So just having that key person, that role model that makes you want to go towards something would help. And as Angela mentioned, if we can start trying to get more young girls involved in engineering or similar projects that will gear them towards that path, earlier on in their lives, that's a great way to go. And yes, allies are absolutely important in the workplace, right? Just if you have an environment where people are willing to help you in the workplace, people who are championing for the inclusion of more women in the workplace, then that would also help to, you know, increase that pool or that percentage. And one thing we also have to keep in mind is that breaking the barrier, or it does not mean you're lowering the standards, right? So if you're going to try to increase the diversity of the pool of candidates you're interviewing, for example, you don't have to, no one is asking that you decrease the quality of candidates you're trying to get. Just make sure it's easier for people to actually access those opportunities. That's one way I think is could help to lower the barrier and increase the percentage we're currently seeing. So
I think one thing I'd like to add for everyone is I really want to reiterate that that the engineering degree is such a powerful degree, and it truly opens doors. As you can see from my own career, you are able to really just pursue careers in finance and law and business and really whatever you put your mind to. I think it just gives you those opportunities to just explore and have those abilities to just transition, because the skills you learn in your engineering degree, you're able to transfer in every setting and every organization and every industry. And I think for me, when I remember at one point I was considering doing business, but when you look at like I'm not pushing down a business degree, but when you look at taking a business degree, and then if you ever wanted to pursue engineering, it's a little bit more difficult to do something like that. But when you have an engineering degree, you can stay technical, or you can actually transition into more business.
Right. Thank you for sharing that, Angela. So I would like to just, I think one of the three main things I learned today for sure is that it's the transferability of the engineering skill, as she has reiterated how she's moved from pretty much from technical roles to like non-technical roles alike. And just knowing that you can actually just navigate once you get that degree is really great to know. Another thing I learned today is the importance of mentorship and allies in the workplace, or just like in your professional career in general, and just how they can help you to, you know, get to places, like access places that you would not normally be able to access by yourself, you know. And lastly, I think one thing I also learned here is like the importance of us to work together to increase the number of females in engineering. So in our own, in whatever capacity we can do it, whether we're trying to help little kids or younger girls in like high school, middle school, to within the workplace in like in managerial positions, we all have a role to play in one way or the other to, you know, encourage that. And yeah, if you know little girls around you who are trying to get into the field, please encourage them. As you can see, there's a lot that can be done with the engineering degree. And while it's challenging, it's always fun. The journey is a fun one. And would like to then go into our Q&A session. And I'll just be looking at the chat box to see any questions. Please be reminded that if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat box, and I'll try my best to make sure we address them. So I think the first one I'm seeing here is, so apart from technical and management side of a job, what is the status of women in technical entrepreneurship?
That's an interesting question. And I think that's one thing that as the OSPE Diversity and Inclusion Task Force, we've really wanted to look into supporting. I think for me, even just like when I look at my network, you don't see many females pursuing entrepreneurship, especially in technical areas. I think especially, I would say in Canada, but I do know some amazing entrepreneurs that have really push the barriers in like IoT and everything. I think it's just harder, I think, to find those mentors and those allies to help you with a lot of the struggles that entrepreneurship just provides in general. I think for me, that's one aspect I really want to look into and look at how we can support those types of business areas.
Okay, Yeah, I like you what you said, Angela. I think I would say, I mean, I'm very passionate about entrepreneurship in general. So we know that right now there are not many, if you check the percentages of female founded companies or tech companies, they're not that many out there. And if you even go down to like when it comes to them getting funding, it's even like for a company where the founders are mainly females or just females, they don't get as much funding, which is quite unfortunate. And we forget the fact that having that pool of diversity when you found a company is important, because diversity brings about different opinions, right? Different perspectives to problem solving. So it'd be nice to see that over the years that we have more women-led companies or women-founded companies in the tech space, because they bring a viewpoint that I guess a male dominant tech company would not have, right? A good example, not to cite it, but it just came to mind, a Bumble, for example. She was initially part of the team in Tinder, and then she left them to found Bumble. And I'm sure you guys have seen all the news about Bumble when they IPO'd, so I believe sometime last month, and they're doing really great for themselves. She brought that perspective because she understood the dating scene from a female perspective and what we want from that end. So it's important to know that when it comes to, we know that diversity, having a diverse workplace or a diverse team increases productivity by 60%, right? So if we need to help try to have more or encourage more women through funding, through just giving them that opportunity to pursue entrepreneurial ventures. Yeah. All right, let me see if we have any other questions in here. All right, so I have one from Wendy McCourt. I am a guidance counselor, and the question that one of my female students has is, if they are interested in engineering, do employers prefer undergraduate degrees from the top-ranked engineering universities, such as U of T and McGill, over schools such as Ryerson and Carleton? Plus, so she has two questions. Plus, will it be easier to get accepted into a graduate program from the ranked schools?
So for the first question, I think over the years, things have evolved. So a lot of the employers that I work for, I think if you have an engineering degree, that's already such a amazing degree to have, that they don't, I've never actually seen, like for me, I graduated from University of Manitoba, from Winnipeg, and it's never stopped me from getting any jobs. And I think as long as you have that engineering degree, that's the most important part. Like, I don't think they look at schools specifically. And I know recently at Microsoft, we had a big discussion with our management and HR, and they're actually looking at all schools. Like before, I think there was like the token schools that they would look for candidates, but now they're making sure to diversify even the schools that they're looking at, which is amazing. And I think for the second part of that question, with regards to the graduate program, I personally didn't go through the graduate program, so I personally don't know what the criteria is and if they look at just the ranked schools. But I think if you stay, like from my colleagues that I went to university with, they typically stayed within the graduate programs within the university. But I went to University of Manitoba, so we didn't really have any other options either. So if you wanted to stay local.
All right. I can't really speak much for the graduate program either, but I think right now with employers, it's not so much where you finished from. It's like your person. So you're like, they want to know more about like if you're fit for the company is very important nowadays, and also your experience, right? So experience doesn't have to be just internship, because if you don't get internship, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but just like getting involved in school, like what did you do outside of your your curricular activities, right? So did you work part of a design team, were you part of organizations, did you go for case studies? Things like that are important as well. So they don't just look at just the degree, the name of the school and the degree. It's about other things you've done as well, just to keep that in mind. Which is why when Angela was stressing on the importance of getting involved, I really wanted to stress that, like, get involved and do things outside of just your academic work. Thank you for that question, Wendy. Let me see what else we have here. So we have, let's see, a question from, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce your name, boys. Aruna Charles Warren. What special steps has the government taken from women's involvement in engineering and entrepreneurship, like funds or tech support? I don't know if you, Angela, you can speak to this.
That's interesting. I think that from especially my involvement with OSPE, I know that they do support a lot of different programs with regards to just women and breaking barriers. I know that a few years ago, they helped fund a project for us to create this app called Diversify STEM app. And it's really to help employers leverage this free tool to help educate their employees and their management around just the different concepts of diversity and inclusion, and how to enable more, like understand more of the language that comes with a lot of these discussions that we have when it comes to diversity and inclusion. So I know that they do support a lot of like just various programs, and you do have to apply for it. But personally, I haven't really reached out to the government myself to ever pursue any funding. I know that I have some friends, especially the ones that started their own businesses, that have leveraged government programs. But it's more, I'd have to look into that. So I don't have the real answer, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know much about that either. I mean, I'm sure there are some, because I know, like, for example, there is one for, there's funding for right now for like Black-owned businesses or Black entrepreneurs that was started sometime, I want to say sometime late last year. So I'm sure they also have something similar as well for like women-founded or women-owned businesses as well. So just have a look and see what you find. I'm sure, like if you dig, you'll find something for sure. I have a question here. Says, still, every position asks for experience. How do you show that you are capable and can learn and grow?
I think the engineering degree in itself, like I know that when I've spoken to a lot of my hiring managers, they know that when you've gone through an engineering degree, they know that you are capable to work under pressure, you're able to learn, and you have like the problem solving skills to do any job. And I think that's what has helped me be able to pursue a lot of the different companies and industries myself. I think with regards to just gaining experience, for me, it's all about like, I just leverage a lot of the volunteering opportunities and being just getting involved. I think for me, it's like network is so critical. So if you're able to even get involved with some of the organizations and make those connections, and then they can help like create some opportunities to even just gain some experience or some exposure, I think that will help a lot.
Yeah, I think networking definitely goes a long way, like reaching out to people who work in the company you're applying to beforehand, just get a feel of, just so they can place a face to your name. So when your resume goes in, like you're kind of like in the forefront of their mind when they see it, right? And one thing for sure is, like, I think one way you can show you can learn and grow is the attitude. So your attitude with which you answer questions. Take myself, for example, when I was interviewing for the job I currently have, I read the description. I was like, I don't know majority of the things here, but I'll give it a shot. So when I went there, I told them like, okay, I don't know this, but I know I can learn. Just show it, just reiteration that, and the energy that you give or you exude during the internship, so during the interview would show, hopefully. Yeah. So thank you for that question. We have a question here from Muna. What concrete ways can a manager bridge all and any gender gaps within his or her team, specifically ensuring and building a framework that allows women to reach their full potential in an engineering field and workplace?
I think for me, I think environment is critical. And I think especially when it comes to, like, even when I consider myself and what Joy mentioned earlier, that imposter syndrome, I think women naturally, for some reason, there's some self-doubt we go through whenever we're pursuing, even when I think about like the jobs that I've applied for in the past. And even though I may have all 7 criteria, there's always one that I'm like, well, I have enough years of experience in that one. Maybe I need another year. And I'm always, I think, just doubting my experiences and my knowledge and everything. And I think for managers, it is truly critical to really like take the time and empower those individuals, especially the females on your team, like have those discussions, acknowledge them for their accomplishments, because sometimes we don't even realize that you see what we've done, and we almost kind of hope that somebody will notice, but we never will raise it ourselves.
Yeah, I think I agree with Angela with what she said, and I think just add to that, managers should listen and act. So like just create that safe space in your workplace where people feel comfortable enough to share what they're thinking of, like the ideas they would like to pursue career-wise, right? And not just listen to it, but act on it, right? So if you're just listening to what people want to do and how they want to navigate their career path, but you're not, fostering that or like pushing for that, then it's all moot, in my opinion. So yeah, thank you for that question, Natasha. Actually, was it Natasha? I'm trying to see. Let's see. Okay, so Iris is asking, where do you find technical engineering volunteer activities?
So actually, there's another follow-up answer to that, which is volunteering with the PEO. So I think there's organizations that are more technical that you can leverage those networks, especially the ones that are working in technical areas, for those experiences through volunteering. But I think also one aspect is like reaching out to the startups. I think there's like so many, even like some of the organizations like Mars or DMZ, like there's just so many companies that are starting to like get their companies off the ground that they're probably would love to just have another person on the team or help with anything that they're trying to pursue. I think that's also a great area to consider.
Thanks for sharing that. I didn't even know that you could volunteer for technical roles until today. So I'm learning something. Hey.
Well, I don't know if you can volunteer, but I'm sure that there's like if you spoke to the founders or the ones that are like, they'd probably value any bodies that can help, right? So I think that could be something to consider.
And I think even like I think like positions in, let's say, things that involve software engineering, for example, you can do your own side project. That's what the technical work is, right? So doing your own side projects on GitHub and whatnot is a way for you to build that skill and show, like, build your portfolio before going to the interview. Just to put that out there. Let me see if we have any other questions. Sorry if I missed any. I think we have addressed all.
One thing I'd like to add actually to Muna's question is, I know that there's a lot of organizations nowadays that have a lot of these like employee resource groups, like, and for me, one thing that even we're talking about at Microsoft is leveraging those resource groups to actually get the real transparent, like firsthand knowledge of like the challenges in the workplace. And I feel like because these employee resource groups create that safe space to raise a lot of these issues, if you leverage those and vice versa, even if they bring you in as a manager within the organization, I think that will be helpful just to bridge that communication.
Right, thank you. Thank you for that, Angela. And I don't see any other questions, so I'd like to thank you all for participating in this event today. But before we go, would like to run a quick poll by name. Yeah, I think there are about 2 or 3 questions, and yeah, I'll just let that run in the meantime. So this pretty much concludes our talk for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Angela, for your transparency and honesty. And we hope you found this talk on our experiences in engineering to be insightful. OSPE believes that the engineering profession must become more equitable, diverse, and inclusive in order to continue thriving. And with the changing landscape, it seems like we're on our way there. We'll have a wonderful day, and be sure to check out our website ospe.on.ca to see how we are helping to make changes and change the profile of STEM. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math in Canada. And if you have any other questions, feel free to connect with Angela or myself via LinkedIn. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I shared my LinkedIn profile in the chat as well. So please feel free to connect with me. I'm happy to support wherever I can.
Right then, I'll hand over to, I think, Natasha, or do we end here?
Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we hope that you enjoy the rest of NEM Ontario. And please also visit nemontario.ca to take a look at the different offerings that they have. So thank you, everybody, for joining us.